Some of you aren't going to like what I have to say, so I figured I might as well dress like Professor Umbridge. More casting has been announced for the upcoming Harry Potter series that's being produced by HBO, and we now have our Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Dominic McLaughlin will be our Harry Potter, Alistair Stout will play Ron Weasley, and Arabella Stanton is our new Hermione Granger. I think this casting looks great, unlike what they announced for Snape. And for the most part, it seems like most other people feel the same way. I think these kids look like what's described in the books. Still, there are some people who are fixating on Arabella Stanton because she appears to be a light-skinned mixed-race girl. Now, I understand why a lot of us book lovers are feeling really burned by Hollywood over the last few years because there's just been so many examples of movies where they capriciously changed someone's race or sex just because they were trying to do like that tick box diversity thing. Like, oh, to get an award, we need this many people of this race and this many people of this. And I really don't like that because it means there's all kinds of wonderful stories that you can't tell. There are wonderful stories that are really just about boys. There's also wonderful stories that are really just about girls. It should be okay to acknowledge that and tell interesting stories about all kinds of people, even if that means not everyone is represented in every single film. People love great stories, and they don't like when they're changed for no good reason. Sometimes when you adapt a book to a film, the story is expanded or embellished, and it makes the story richer and deeper and more interesting. I don't need a story to be perfectly translated to the screen. It just doesn't work. Film and fiction are completely different mediums for telling a story. That's okay. What people don't like is the destabilization of the plot or the distortion of the characters made by changes that they're not made to serve the story. They're just made to serve the political agenda of the filmmakers. However, in this case, I don't think there's any reason to complain that Hermione's been race swapped, because if you look at the actual text of the book and just go off of that, there's actually a little bit of wiggle room with her character. I wouldn't say this to be the case with Harry or Ron. If you look at their family background, the appearance of their parents, their surnames, everything about them, it's pretty clear that you really can only read them as being white British. That's neither good nor bad. It just is what it is. It's the story. It's how J.K. Rowling told it, and filmmakers should respect that. But again, sticking with what's in the book, we've got more room with Hermione. When she's first introduced, it says she had a bossy sort of voice, lots of bushy brown hair, and rather large front teeth. With a surname like Granger, Hermione's going to need to be of at least part English descent. Back home in California, I grew up with kids who were of part Latino descent, had brown skin, but then maybe also a Polish or Irish surname. Now that I live in England, it's totally common for me to meet someone with a British surname, but who's of partial Jamaican or Asian ancestry. So it's actually quite common to have people of mixed ethnic backgrounds. They might have an English or Welsh surname and some light brown skin. I see it all the time. It's totally normal here. So there are other moments in the Harry Potter books where Hermione is described as going pale or her face is turning white, and that can still happen if you happen to be a light-skinned brown girl. Like, this is fine. I know how badly fans have been burned by capricious story changes that destabilized plots and characters that we'd really come to love. And we're annoyed at Hollywood, we don't trust Hollywood, and we don't like what they've been doing with our toys. That's all completely legit, and I share all of those feelings. But I'm going to give credit where it's due. This is fine. Even more to the point, and maybe I really do just feel this way because this little girl is the same age as my oldest daughter. She's a child. Leave her alone. Nobody should be scrutinizing her personal history. It is kind of weird to be like, oh, well, what is she? What kind of mixed is she? Like, that's just not very appropriate. Like, if she wants to share that information, that's fine. All we need to know as fans is that she looks like Hermione. I haven't heard her speak yet. I didn't see her audition, but I'm assuming that she must have knocked it out of the park when it comes to sounding bossy, or she wouldn't have landed the role. So for me, this Harry, Ron, and Hermione look fine. Except Snape, that's not fine. I know Hollywood's messed up a lot over the years, and maybe it's silly for me to remain this optimistic, but I hope it's good. I want this show to be good. It's okay if you had a certain vision of Hermione in your head, and you're allowed to be disappointed if the casting doesn't exactly match that. But if you're saying anything nasty about a little girl just because she doesn't match your headcanon, all I have to say in response is Silencio! Try to remember that TV, film, and stage productions of children's books are just possible versions. The rule that I try to follow is what's in the book? What possibilities are offered by the text? There's a lot of different ways you could go with this. And as long as it doesn't change the character beyond recognition, introduce new themes into the story, or break the plot, I'm fine with it. I'm happy to be a little bit flexible because it means I get the chance to think of characters in new and different ways, and nobody should be shut out from a role if they more or less look and sound the part. I think that this casting perfectly falls within the framework of what Harry, Ron, and Hermione should look like. I hope these kids have a great time making this show, and I hope that they're able to have as normal of a childhood as possible, and I hope that weird adults leave them alone. I'd be curious to hear from you about what future casting you'd like to see and maybe what actors you would want to see in some of the roles of Harry Potter villains. There are so many good villains in this series. Some of them are really scary and some of them are just kind of outrageous. Personally, I really look forward to seeing who they bring in as Gilderoy Lockhart because he's just such a silly, foppish figure, and you really need someone who can go over the top for that part. But what part do you want to see casted, and who would be your dream actor in the role? Let me know.